can see the world through open eyes and savor all the time before it flies. And every time you wake up, there's a new day that's calling out your name. Come join the game. Well, that's life. Take what comes along the way. That's love. Let it grow stronger every day. There's joy as the days go passing by. There's hope, a better life for you and I. Take our dreams and fly. Together we can try. That's life. Well, some things in this world were meant to be, like living life in peace and harmony. So follow where the road will lead you. Hand in hand we'll make our dreams come true. Enjoy the view. Oh, that's life. Take what comes along the way. That's love. Let it grow stronger every day. There's joy as the days go passing by. There's hope, a better life for you and I. We'll take our dreams and fly. Together we can try. That's life. Together we can try. Oh, that's life. We'll take what comes along the way. That's love. Let it grow stronger every day. There's joy and as the days go passing by. There's hope, a better life for you and I. We'll take our dreams and fly. Together we can try. That's a life. I feel so alive, yeah. I'm happy head to toe. I'm in overdrive. Well, alright. Clear those clouds away. I can feel the sun, yeah. Let the music play. Now we've just begun. I'm ready, 'cause these are the best days. These are the best days. These are the best days of our lives, of our lives. There's magic in the air, and it feels so right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So follow if you dare, and you'll see the light shine so bright. 'Cause these are the best days. These are the best days. These are the best days. These are the best days of our lives, of our lives.
Good evening, everyone. Let's call our meeting to order. A quick note for our audience. I have asked First Vice President Mary Parker to preside over portions of tonight's meeting, as I am only able to join you virtually. Roll call, please, Ms. Neal.
Ms. Miller.
Here.
Ms. Parker.
Here.
Ms. Reed.
Here.
Ms. Schooley.
Here.
Dr. Barta.
Here.
Is there a motion on today's agenda?
I move that the Board of Education approves the agenda for the special meeting of March 17th, 2022 as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? The motion on the table has been moved and seconded. Roll call, please, Ms. Neal.
Ms. Miller.
Yes.
Ms. Parker.
Yes.
Ms. Reed.
Yes.
Ms. Schooley.
Yes.
Dr. Barta.
Yes.
We will begin our special meeting with public comments. I believe we have 2 people signed up. We'll call the first person, Crystal Schuster, who should be there in person.
I don't think Crystal is here.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to our, virtual participant, Michelle Miley. Welcome, Ms. Miley. Can you see and hear us okay?
Yes, I can.
Great, the floor is yours whenever you're ready.
Thank you. My name is Michelle Miley. I'm from Arvada. My son attends Fitzmaurice and is a 3rd grader in the ASD secondary program. I wanted to start with thanking Superintendent Dorland for speaking with Fitz parents on Monday, March 14th. I appreciate the time she's put into considering our situation at Fitz, as well as being transparent about the issues facing our school. My son has attended Fitz for the last 4.5 years. In that time, there have been a lot of changes, mainly as you've seen from the trends. We started with a much larger student body. My son has flourished in the program provided at Fitz. The great staff, inclusive community have contributed to our great experience at that center program. However, in the last year, there have been some challenges, and I'm sure due in part to the smaller size of our school. We have not had an ASD intermediate teacher since last September, and the primary ASD teacher has stepped up and filled in and done a wonderful job instructing both classrooms. However, this cannot continue, no matter how much I love her and appreciate her. The children in the secondary program need some consistency. I know that in general, hiring teachers for the district has proven difficult, but one can only assume that due to our smaller size, it can cause some concern for a new hire, which I'm thinking is making it more difficult to attract candidates. It's also been amazing watching our staff come together this year, work together to keep our little school going, and they deserve a lot of praise. And I simply cannot begin to start to commend and express my gratitude and appreciation for our principal, Jen. She is truly one of a kind, and I just wish that the kids could have had more time with her. But the harsh reality is that we're just too small anymore to give our kids an enriching environment. Although I love Fitz and will miss the connections that my son has made with others in the Gen Ed program, as well as some of my own, in the best interest of the whole community, the children, the staff, and the families, we need a determination to our future as quickly as possible to allow us time to adjust and prepare our kids. And although I would love for our whole school community to transition together, I realize that's probably just not logistically possible. And I believe it is absolutely vital, though, that the ASD program stay together. The kids in the program will already be making a huge adjustment, so placing them all at the same school together with teachers that they're familiar with, to me, would be the only responsible decision. And after speaking for a few brief moments with Principal Stott, I believe that Superintendent Dorland made an informed decision on the best placement for our center program. I also wanted to express some thanks to those on the board who've taken time to evaluate our situation. And I just want to say I'll always love Fitz, and I'm sure the board will make the right decision. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Ms. Miley. I want to double check and make sure that Crystal Schuster hasn't appeared in person so that we're not passing anyone over.
Yes, Crystal is
present.
here.
Wonderful. Ms. Schuster, welcome.
Better? Oh, okay. Hi, my name is Crystal Schuster. I'm also a parent. My son Nolan is a second grader in the ASD program at Fitzmaurice. I'm kind of going to just second a lot of what Michelle just said, that the ASD program at Fitzmaurice is really top notch, with the exception, like she said, of not having the, secondary teacher. I hope that's something we can get in place and get someone hired so that they can continue the really great work that the primary department is doing. My son has really thrived there. This is an amazing group of people, and I have walked away from every IEP meeting with just this feeling of serenity, seeing all these professionals collaborate to really address my son's needs in a way that I know doesn't always happen. And I don't take that for granted, and I hope the board doesn't either, and that you recognize that and do everything possible to really preserve what they're doing there. And I like the superintendent's suggestion that don't get me wrong, I don't want the school to close. I also love Fitzmaurice. I love everyone there. But if it has to close, if we can just pick up that whole program, move it to another elementary school, Stott does seem to be a fairly good choice there from what I've seen. Sorry, I'm so shaky when I'm nervous talking. But yeah, I just really, really, really would like to see that taken into consideration, keep the program together as much as possible, and also allow for a lot of support for that adjustment for our kids. They are going to have a really hard time with this and need a lot of extra support. I guess that's about it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Schuster. Okay, board, we are going to transition at the end of our speakers, and thank you both for your remarks. Oops, sounds like it's echoing. We'll move on to our end discussion. We have allocated an hour. Excuse me. So we are here this evening in accordance with board policies 1 through 3 that states the Board of Education believes every school will have effective learning systems and shared leadership that provide high quality core instructional practices, interventions, and enrichment, with the expectation that every student will receive the skills, support, and educational opportunities needed to achieve their full potential. On January 6, 2022, members of the Fitzmaurice Elementary School community signed up to address the board on the challenges in delivering high quality core instructional practices, interventions, and enrichments at the school due to declining enrollment. On February 9th, 2022, in accordance with Board Governance Process Policy GP17, Community Engagement, the board invited members of the Fitzmaurice Elementary School community to engage with the board at a study session in connection with the board's work to review the district's vision, mission, and values. Based on these discussions and further engagement with the Fitzmaurice Elementary School community, the superintendent recommends that Jeffco Public Schools prepares to serve Fitzmaurice students, staff members, and families at other district schools at the start of the 22-23 school year to ensure they have access to the best elementary school experience the district has to offer. Superintendent Dorland, I'm going to turn it over to you to carry forward with your presentation and recommendation.
Great. Thank you, President Schooley. Good evening, Board of Education, attendees, and members of the Jeffco community. I want to begin by talking a little bit about an event that I attended earlier this week. I had the pleasure of visiting our Jeffco Elementary Art Show at Red Rocks Community College, and I had the honor of selecting 2 pieces for the district art collection that will be displayed here at the Ed Center and recognized at one of your upcoming meetings. I was so impressed with the beautiful art and talent of our students and the incredible support that was evident that our art teachers provided them, that I also purchased 2 pieces for myself, which was really exciting. And I just want to highlight that as, for me as superintendent this week, a moment of joy in the role as a leader in this community supporting Jeffco. because it's a very different feeling than I have tonight presenting this recommendation to you. This is not a joyous time for me this week. This has been a meeting that has been very difficult for me to prepare for, and it's difficult for me to make this recommendation to you this evening. With that being said, I do want to also acknowledge that, we are smarter today than we were yesterday, and we're going to be smarter tomorrow than we are today. And I know that we have a history of school closures in Jeffco that have been extremely difficult for many in our community. I also know that this was a situation the board was facing late last spring in April, prior to my contract being approved. And I have done what I can on the timeline that I've had to take lessons learned about what didn't work in previous circumstances that were similar to this and try to make it better and more honorable of the Fitzmaurice community than we may have been in the past with previous communities. And I want you to know that I have a commitment to continuing to learn and continuing to partner with our board, our staff, and our communities to do this type of work in the future, aligned to best practice, aligned to partnership, and in a way where our community is honored and engaged. And so I say all that before I jump in to our presentation this evening so that you just have some context about my process and my mental state as I make this recommendation to you. And at the same time, we all know as leaders the joy that we get when we get to have an event like an art show. But we also know as leaders that we also have to show up when it's hard. And so that's what I'm going to do here tonight with you. And I commend the board for engaging in this conversation, for asking me for this recommendation. I also commend the staff that has been working side by side with me, our cabinet team and their teams, for helping me get a lot of information together and being present with the Fitzmaurice community side by side with me as we've gotten to this place today, where I will be presenting this recommendation. So here's the current state of the Fitzmaurice enrollment. The K-5 membership has declined 57% over the last 6 years. We were having that conversation in early January and February, and then we closed first round of Enroll Jeffco choice process, and we started to really dial in what does this mean in terms of the actual enrollment for next year. We believe, based on that analysis, which has happened over the last several weeks, that the membership at Fitzmaurice is expected to decline 23% from this year at 114 students to 88 students next year. We do believe of those 88 students that 65 are K-5 general education students. And then, of course, as we heard from our public commenters this morning, we have an ASD center program there, and that center program serves 23 students. That makes up the 88. We know that 25% of the staff is actively applying for other positions. I want to make a point to say it is not because the staff wants to leave the school. The staff loves the students, loves the families, and is working tremendously hard to provide as quality of an experience as they can with the resources that they have. At the same time, I think the staff is worried about what's going to be happening next year, and they want to be very efficacious in the work they do with students. And oftentimes that efficacy comes in a larger school setting for teachers and staff. In 2021-22, the per pupil expenses at Fitzmaurice are nearly 30% higher than the average Jeffco Elementary School. And with a loss of an additional 23% of its enrollment, that cost will increase. And I'll talk a little bit more about the cost in a future slide, and you'll see some more detail on that. I want to make it clear that this is not about the cost or the dollars and cents, but it is about the programming opportunities that we're able to provide for the investment we're making. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Most elementary schools in Jeffco have at least 2 classrooms and teachers per grade level. Fitzmaurice enrollment is so small that it cannot sustain 1 teacher per classroom for each grade level. And so students are in split classes, or teachers are wearing multiple hats so that first graders can all be together. But when they are, for example, there are only 5 first graders, and so they don't have a robust classroom experience. They also lack the engagement that's available at other elementary schools that have a larger enrollment. So the aftercare provider to support working families is not available at Fitzmaurice. There has been multiple attempts by school leadership to engage with after-school providers, but there's just not enough students to sustain a program. We know that they do not have the same number of clubs, activities, and diverse student interactions. And of course, our teachers are struggling with adequate planning time, peer collaboration, and coaching. We know that many staff members fill in and wear many, many hats because of the staffing and student ratios there at Fitzmaurice. In January of 22, the principal asked that her community have a voice in the future opportunities for Fitzmaurice students and staff, and through public comment and the board study session in February, members of the Fitzmaurice community requested that we honor the school by setting and plan a motion to move forward and prioritize the unique needs that we have at Fitzmaurice for its students, families, and staff. And again, I commend the board for hosting the conversation, and thank you to Director Varda and President Schooley for being at the school with me multiple times. I think you guys were, and you were with me earlier this week as well. So thank you very much. So here is my recommendation for the board. I recommend that Jeffco Public Schools prepare to serve the Fitzmaurice students, staff members, and families at other district schools at the start of the 22-23 school year to ensure that they have the best access to an elementary experience that the district can provide. And so we know that, and we've been talking about in Jeffco, that our learners are our future. And so we're committed to ensuring a supported process for families and students as they transition to a new school opportunity if the board is to accept this recommendation. And so here is a summary of what will happen. All K-5 general education students will have the chance to attend Lawrence Elementary School or receive individualized support in selecting their school of choice for the 22-23 school year. The students who are in the Fitzmaurice boundary who meet eligibility requirements can access transportation to Lawrence, and that would be the distance from Lawrence and from which they live. The ASD Center program will move to Stott Elementary School as a center program. That was very important feedback that we received from the community. And thank you very much to our special education team for the work that they've done to select what I do believe is the just right school for this program, with a strong leader who's committed to embracing the diversity that will be coming into her school. This is a school that has previously had a center program. The staff and leadership in the building is very excited to welcome this program into Stott Elementary. Incoming and continuing preschool students will also receive individualized support in selecting their school of choice for the 22-23 school year. And I will also just say that the general ed siblings of the students in the ASD Center program can also have a place at Stott, so the families can move together. You can see here on the next slide where Stott and Lawrence are in relation to Fitzmaurice. Lawrence boundary is adjacent to the Fitzmaurice boundary, and then you'll see Stott a little bit further over. So that's just some context for you. In addition to talking about our students as our future, we've also been talking about our staff being our strength in Jeffco. And so it was also important to me as we put this recommendation together that we are committing to a supported process for our staff as they transition to a new school opportunity. And so you'll see here recommendations for next steps with staff if the board is to accept this recommendation. That the center program staff will move with the program to Stott. You heard this evening that we are looking currently for an intermediate teacher for that program. Knowing the location and will help expedite that hiring process, because then the Stott principal can be the hiring manager and get going and recruiting and hopefully retaining a high quality teacher for this program in the intermediate level. Non-probationary educators will receive a placement at another available school, If non-probationary teachers want to continue to apply at other schools outside the one where we have a spot for them, they will be supported through the interview process by our HR team. And then probationary and temporary educators will also be supported through the interview process by our HR team. There will be a place at STOT for the ASD staff members' children, if those staff members would like for their children to come to STOT with them. The educational support professionals who work for central departments like food service or custodial services will be reassigned to another school per our central processes. And those who work directly for the school will be supported through the transfer process and placed into another position for the 22-23 school year. So our HR team is ready to go if the board is to accept this and approve this recommendation in supporting our staff. So let me discuss some data and context that has led me to this recommendation. The membership right now for this school year is about 155 with preschool. About 114 of those 155 are K-5 students. The building has capacity to serve 456 students, so it's 34% utilized at this point in time. There are 244 students that are K-5 age who live within the K-5 boundary, the boundary of Fitzmaurice. And you can see some high-level choice in, choice out data here. About 58% of the 114 students choice in from other boundary areas, and 79% of the students who live within the boundary choice out. The next slide actually shows you more data analysis around what's going on with the students who live within the boundary. So I'll draw your attention to the table on the right first. You'll see that table is titled Lives in the Fitzmaurice Elementary School Area. In 21-22, there are 224 students who live in the Fitzmaurice area. The students who are choicing out, about 176 of them are choicing out, which is about 78, almost 79%. You can then see underneath where they attend. So 13 of those students are at Arvada K-8, for example. 11 are at Fremont Elementary, 25 at Lumberg. I'm just going down the list and selecting some of the larger numbers. Vanderhoof, Lincoln Academy. Oh, did I miss the line? Yeah. So you can see some of where you can see where all of those students are going. On the left, you can see the data around who is attending. So the total membership, as you'll see that we've talked about on previous slides, is 114. About 58% of those students choice in from other boundary areas, and that's about that's about 66 of the 114. And then you can see where they're coming from. About 12 are coming from Arvada K-8, 9 are coming from Lawrence, and so on and so forth. So this is just information for you and for you to know that we've looked at this as we've been making this decision and around what to recommend. This next graph shows you that this really has been a trend over many years, that their enrollment hasn't just overnight dropped, but it has been dropping steadily since 14-15. And so I just want to make note of that. It's not just a pandemic issue. The pandemic may have exacerbated things, but it has been a trend for Fitzmaurice. And as we've discussed in previous conversations, it's been a trend for our district overall. This is the current number of students by grade level at Fitzmaurice. And I did have the opportunity, you'll see at second grade there's 5. I had the opportunity to see those 5 students in first grade this year in their literacy classroom. And so, yeah, you can just see it makes it very difficult to make full class sizes by grade level for content standards to be clean. And so teachers are doing multiple things throughout the course of the day to make sure students get what they need. This slide talks about the per pupil expenses, and earlier I had mentioned that the per pupil expenses are about 30% higher than the average Jeffco elementary school. You can see Fitzmaurice is right now estimated per pupil expense at about $20,309. The average elementary school per pupil expense in Jeffco is about $15,839. Some elementaries, you'll see elementary B, elementary C. Some elementaries are a little higher than the average, some are a little lower. Fitzmaurice is much higher than the average. And again, it's not about how much money we're spending. We want to provide students a high quality program. And so for the amount of investment that we're making, the program is struggling. And that's the bottom line in terms of what we want to do. We want to offer students a robust learning experience. And we're really struggling to do that at Fitzmaurice with the number of students who are expected to be there next year. So I want to also talk about the fact that we have invested bond dollars in the Fitzmaurice facility. The total bond funding that we've invested is about $1.5 million. You can see here what we've invested in. And I will just say what I've said to many people. There are questions about why are you investing in a school that you're now not going to have a program in next year. We've talked about this at the last meeting, and I'll say again, the district is a large real estate holder. And as a real estate holder, we have a large portfolio of properties. It is in our best interest to make sure that our properties are in good condition and that we continue to invest in them. We do not know what enrollment's going to do in the next 10 to 15 years. We may need this facility again, maybe sooner rather than later, who knows, to serve as a school. It could also serve as a community resource center, some other need that the district might have. And so investing in our facilities as real estate owners is not necessarily a bad thing. It is, too bad that we aren't going to have students there next year. I don't think anybody wants that to happen. I will say all of the FF&E, furniture, fixtures, and equipment, anything that can be moved to follow students to a new school, will do so. We won't just leave it in the building. And the future of the Fitzmaurice facility will be considered as part of the upcoming Regional Opportunities for Thriving Schools process that we discussed with you at your last study session. So just because the program won't be there next year does not mean that that facility itself can't be considered as part of a regional conversation once we begin that process. And again, the portable assets will be distributed and continued use by students and staff. Okay, so I think that's all. The appendix slides aren't here, which is fine. So that's about the end of the presentation. I just want to reiterate that this is not a recommendation that I make lightly. And it's not an easy recommendation to make, but I do believe that it is the right thing for us to consider for Fitzmaurice next year. And so with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Ms. Parker, who I believe is going to facilitate the board question and dialogue session.
Thank you, Superintendent Dorland. Board, it's our opportunity now to discuss what we've heard in not only tonight's presentation, but in previous experiences we've had speaking about the Fitzmaurice situation. So I'm going to open it up to discussion if anyone would like to start. Dr. Varda.
Okay. When we first heard about from the Fitz community at board meeting in January, I have to admit I was a little confused because I wasn't sure what you all were asking for. And I don't think that you were sure either at the time, but it was really clear then that there was something going on and you were advocating for kids at your school to have an experience that wasn't presently happening. And also I remember you asking to be a part of the process and whatever went forward. So I just wanted to start with thanking you for that kind of courage to come forward and talk about a really hard topic. It's one that I've, as a board member, keep asking, like, is this a topic that no one wants to talk about, but we have to talk about? And it is indeed one of those. So I do believe that we can create a really great opportunity for the kids at Fitzmaurice with some of the solutions that Superintendent Dorland has suggested, hearing from the community this week on Monday, and the letters that we've received and just other kinds of comment, give me a lot of hope, actually, because there was a lot of positive, I think, thinking about the future for the kids. Hearing the Lawrence principal come and talk about his excitement about welcoming these kids and creating really great transitions and environments for them was really helpful, and the STOP principal the same. So I've heard a lot from the center parents, and I think that's been a really positive thing for them. Nobody's happy about the situation. So I think after hearing all of that, I was a little more comforted by the situation that we're faced with here. But and no one will be surprised by this. I've been really pushing back a little bit at addressing just one school, Fitzmaurice, at one time. I've really watched as a parent and a community member how we've closed schools in the past and kind of been appalled at the lack of community engagement and process. And I really thought that we should be doing that now for this. And so I felt a little insistent at some points that we engage more of the community and think of this more systemically than just one school at a time. But time will have it that we didn't have enough time to actually engage in that big process. But I think it's absolutely critical that as we move forward right now, that we engage in a process. We have the regional opportunities for Thriving Schools as a plan. I'm very grateful that that plan came forward before today, because I think we absolutely have to have a plan right now for other small schools, other ways we're using resources, and I think the ability for us to collaborate and share resources across these areas is going to be really awesome at some point when we can think about this strategically and come up with a really thoughtful plan with a lot of community engagement going forward. So I am sorry that we haven't been able to do that with Fitzmaurice as part of that larger discussion, but I am optimistic that we'll do it. And I think it's this board's obligation to have that conversation from that perspective and think about consolidations and how we're thinking about our schools. Because I really believe we can create opportunities for kids to excel academically and socially when we think about the kinds of resources we can bring to them. And when we do that from a systemic perspective, I think we can create some really awesome things for families. And the last thing I would say, I've just visited a lot of schools over the last few months, and today I was in schools, and you see the differences when you go from one school to the next, and the stress on some staff, and all staff are kind of stressed right now, but the ways in which different resources make such a difference for the difference. I know everyone knows this, but it's really reinforced to me that there's really awesome parts of lots of our schools, and that some of these schools need to get, we need to bridge those really great parts. So bringing what's best of Fitz, just to the schools where they might go, and then doing this work is just, I'm thinking of it as an opportunity now and a really tough challenge, but I'm proud of us for having that conversation. So I'm not thrilled that we're here without having the process that I wish we had been able to go through, but I really do look forward to the way that we will go forward with this conversation. So, and I feel ethically that we have the responsibility to do that. So I hope we look back in a couple of years and look back at the process that we're about to go through and just see a really good outcome for our kids. I'll pass it on.
Thank you, Dr. Varda. Anyone else? Ms. Miller?
May I just have a question? On the appendix, there is the page where, as I lost my page. Thank you. Can you go down to the page where it talks about the kiddos going on over to Lawrence in the appendix section? Is that possible? I'll try to bring mine up.
So I tried to forward through to the appendices because I wanted to highlight a few things on there, and
Yeah, so on page 19. Yes, thank you. I beg your pardon? Oh, I thought she did have it on there. Oh, okay. Well, on the appendix.
That's okay. We can talk through it.
Okay.
I have them here. So.
Okay, great. Thank you. So we're talking about Lawrence Elementary. We'll now have 2 classrooms per grade level. It says higher building utilization among other area elementary schools, 50%, and space to serve every gen ed student. So am I understanding that Lawrence has a 50% utilization? Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. And so the other ones around Lawrence have a lower utilization.
Yes.
So we are right now looking at Fitz that has 36%, and there are other schools, I'm assuming, right around Fitz that are in the same situation that Fitz is in right now. Is that
similar situation?
Similar situation. So we are saying that for those other schools, because they didn't come to us, that we'll deal with it in the thriving school conversation. And so for this year, they may have 10, 5, 7 children in a classroom.
I would say Fitzmaurice is the school, based on our analysis, that was the lowest and had the most challenge with 88 students and, 5 second graders going up to first graders going up to second grade. Other schools are small and they have challenges. They were not as great of challenges as what Fitzmaurice was facing for next school year, but the team is actively working with our principals to understand what they need, how we're going to help them next year, and support. And yes, that there would be other schools involved in a more comprehensive, per the board's request, a more comprehensive regional opportunity to have a discussion about a vision for how we help schools thrive.
Okay, thank you. As has been expressed by others, the process has been far less than ideal and is still not equitable when you look at other schools that have similar issues. And at the same time, I want to say that from what I've heard from people at Fitzmaurice, if heart alone could make a school thrive, Fitzmaurice would be everything that it should be for students. And so, the community, the parents, the kids, the staff, wherever they go, they'll be taking those hearts with them. And that will be a true gift to Lawrence and Stott and any other schools that you go to. I choke up because, man, I bled blue and silver for 30 years at a school, so I know how important that is. So I truly appreciate that you did come to us and ask for our help. My hope is that no other school is ever placed in that position again, that from this point forward, we will develop a process that will begin in a timely fashion to do this work better. I think under the circumstances, we did the best that we could, but boy, I do hope that we do better. And my heart is with you guys, and may next year be a good year for all your kids.
I'm going to say something now, and then I'll ask President Schooley if she has some more comments she'd like to make. But I want to thank the Fitzmaurice community, the staff, the parents for coming forward and telling us your story. It was very moving, and for myself as the new board member, I realized I needed to go look at my schools, my small schools, and I needed to get to them as fast as I could and ask them how it was going there. Some of you know I have 2 daughters who are teachers, so I'm very attuned to what they've gone through in the last couple of years. And when I started hearing about your school and how the teachers were all teaching multiple levels, multiple ages, on top of the challenges of a pandemic and just the things that our community's gone through in general, I just was amazed at your commitment, your caring, and just taking the opportunity to come talk to the board. I mean, you could have been swamped at your school and just sort of wanted to go home and take a break. The fact that you had so many parents that came up here and supported you, you really showed what the benefit of a small school can be. I'm sure you have the best relationships. Everybody knows everybody's name, and you look out for each other. That's the best of a neighborhood school. And unfortunately, too much of a good thing, too small of a good thing, just can't thrive. So anyway, the first thing I want to do is thank you so much for coming forward, doing the best for your students, and informing the board and the district so we can do a better job. As Superintendent Dorland said, we're smarter today than we were before, and hopefully we'll be smarter tomorrow. We do have a program in place now where we do want to do a good description what a thriving school is, what it takes to be a thriving school, so that we will be committed to making sure every student is in a thriving school. And while it's true, the district doesn't have a great reputation for how we've handled struggling schools and how we've made the decision to close them, I think this is the best thing we could do now. It's not perfect by a long shot. We should have done work leading up to it that we didn't do, but this is what we have to do now. There's no benefit in postponing it yet again another year. It's not going to be better next year. It's going to be worse. So anyway, thank you so much. I really appreciate your being here. Anybody else? Did you have anything else, Ms. Miller?
Yeah, I just want to follow up. And this is a really difficult situation I think we find ourselves in. And I just kind of want to go back a bit in history. And 5 years ago, February 2017, I think we all remember sitting in this room, or many of us sat in this room and watched while we voted to close Pleasant View, along with 4 others that we considered that kind of came forward at the last minute to try to realize some type of savings for tune of $20 million. We closed Pleasant View. I will note that Pleasant View was Title I as well. They were not present at the board meeting that evening. We closed it, and a year later turned around and opened up as an innovation school, moving Free Horizon Charter School over to Pleasant View. And we dispersed the Pleasant View children to other schools. And then we turned around and we bought the building, or assumed the debt of Free Horizon, and continued paying it, and then bought that building. So we kind of switched purchases and moved kids. And at the same time, we said we're not going to close Stober, Swanson, Peck, or Pennington. And then in August of 2017, Superintendent Glass said, you know what, we're going to have a 2-year moratorium. We're going to wait. We're not going to close schools. We're going to really evaluate thoughtfully how we go about closing the schools. And the evaluation, he said, it's a numbers conversation, but it's broader than that. Performance, equity, service to the community, disruption to the community, entrepreneurial approaches, how we would work with other community, similar to what you were talking about, other community organizations, aspirations. All of that should be part of the calculus. And so if you have a school closure process, which we do, FCB, that does not recognize all of those things, which it really doesn't, it's really not complete. And we end up coming up one way or another, which is what we have found. We're coming up one way or another with these schools. So last year, Allendale came forward right around the same time. I remember sitting down and having a meeting the Friday before spring break. And, there was work that had been done in the past on, facility plan and how to look about closing and what that looked like. And even with that plan, we went out and asked bond people to pass a bond. And in that bond, we touched every single building in this school district, to the tune of a lot of dollars, as evident by the $1.5 million spent at this school Fitz, which they certainly deserve all the best. Like you said, Superintendent Dorland, we need to keep investing in our schools. But this area is so highly impacted, and we can see it. And there's a part of me that says my heart aches for this area, because if we had taken the time to think about what could have been for this community, we could have taken premium dollars, or we could have taken bond dollars, and we could have consolidated 2 or 3 of these schools and made it better for everybody. And we didn't do that planning. And we're here again in May or March. We missed the December deadline of when we were supposed to bring forward a report that said, Fitz, hey, we need to be thinking about closing or consolidating or whatever. And we are putting this community in a very vulnerable place, as well as others, as you said, that are less than 50% utilized. And we knew this back in May of 2021 when Chalkbeat ran another article that said we had small schools. And we're just we're continuing to move down this pathway. And we kicked the can. I think that was one of previous Director Rupert's comment about we can't keep kicking the can down the road. We've run out of road. And I hear that we're doing the Thriving Schools, and I understand that that's a pathway that you are asking us to consider. But we're not following our policies, and we're not doing honor to our community by continuing not to follow our policies. So I don't know how long the process will take to do the Thriving Schools, but I'm not comfortable not following our policies and continuing to do one-offs. And so I'm having a real difficult time where I am going to end up this evening, but that's the history that we've had for 5 years. And we have to either, one, determine to change our policy before next August. I don't know how long it takes, but we've got to do something, because we cannot keep doing this with our communities. And these are title communities as well. And that's not okay.
Ms. Parker, can I jump in for 1 second? I just want to acknowledge some of the emotion that's actually been at the table this evening. And Ms. Miller, the points that you make have actually been made to me by many people who I've talked to in our schools who have experienced that history. And I mentioned that at the beginning, where I've tried to listen to previous experience and use that as quickly as I could with Fitzmaurice to support a better process, even though, as we've all acknowledged, this is not the way we want this to be happening. I will just tell you that my emotions since last October count. When I started asking for and digging into actual enrollment numbers by school, have ranged from mostly at the beginning surprise. I didn't know that we had this many schools at this level of capacity utilization. Confusion, how could this be to this point? I've had some frustration and anger about why have we kicked this can as a community. I've been sad. As I sat with Fitzmaurice on Monday, I felt sadness. But I'm now in a place where, honestly, I was inspired by the Fitzmaurice staff. On Monday, it was a very difficult conversation. But as we sat and talked about the challenges facing the school, and I was honest and transparent about my recommendation and the why behind it, The staff brought up two things. They cared mostly about what are we going to do to support our students on Friday if this is an accepted recommendation by the board, and what will we do this spring to both support them and celebrate. And then they looked at one another and they said, and how will we support each other? And honestly, that the conversation shifted me somewhat from sadness and frustration and to feeling hopeful. I mean, I do believe if we do this in a different way, and if we don't let the past dictate our future, and we engage what I think is an incredible Jeffco community, that we're going to come to some creative solutions that really do help us create thriving schools for students and families. And so I've come full circle. You know, I'm not feeling happy today because I think this is a very difficult decision in front of you. And I've tried my best to provide for you what I believe you need and what you've asked for in relation to the decision. But I am hopeful that moving forward, we're not going to let the past dictate our future, and we are going to do it differently. And I believe that I'm grateful that this board, I believe, has the will to do that. And I believe the staff sitting behind me has the skill set and expertise and commitment to this community to help us get it done. So with that, I think President Schooley probably needs a turn.
Yes, President Schooley?
Thank you. So a lot has been said, so I won't reiterate what has already been addressed, everything from the conflicting emotions of this kind of moment and forward. And as Ms. Miller shared, you know, Jeffco has a long, complicated, imperfect history with this type of decision making that I have experienced as a parent, as a board member, et cetera. What I will say, just as a sort of reminder and grounding for folks listening, one is that I appreciate that, you know, we're 3 months in-ish to this iteration of this board working with this superintendent and have really already dug into very foundational changes in the way that we envision the work of the district and the values we carry forward, and have outlined a process, a timeline that includes policy review and revision to align all of these things together. To Ms. Miller's point about creating consistency so that we are operating in a way where our community is not only engaged, but also understands what to expect in terms of the parameters and decision-making of this board and boards moving forward, more importantly to me. So I want to make sure it's clear that this is one work I'm very grateful that this board and superintendent and staff are willing to do and really dig into. I accept, you know, the role that we're playing right now, which is absolutely unpleasant to make these types of decisions. And I also believe very deeply in the best interest in making the hard decisions for the kids at Fitzmaurice that are not able to have the same opportunities for their educational experiences that others are, and moving forward the opportunities of other students and community members and elected officials and business leaders to be able to engage in these conversations and really figure out what is the vision for this moving forward, so that we're not sitting on a dais making this decision again, but we're side by side, as Superintendent Dorland says, with our community members and really re-envisioning these opportunities. So I just want to reassure folks that we are doing this hard work now and recognizing that things have not been done in the past, but we are here now and really trying to dig into this work to make it an improved process moving forward. Thank you, Director Parker.
Are there any other comments that anyone would like to make? Okay, then I think we've done the discussion. Are we ready for direction to the superintendent? Is there a motion on the agenda?
I move that the Board of Education adopts the resolution regarding Fitzmaurice Elementary School as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion? I just have one question. We do have a resolution. Do we need to read it, or?
You are not legally required to read it into the record. I think right now, I'm not sure if that resolution is available to the public. Is it? Okay, nodding head. So it sounds like the resolution is publicly available, and the listening public can go on and see that. And so you don't need to read it at this time. You certainly can if you would like to.
Okay. Okay, so if it's available to the public, I encourage everybody to go and look at it. So no discussion on it. We're ready for the roll call.
And Director Parker, one thing we could clarify for the listening public, because it's not as clear in the title, that the thrust of that resolution is for the board to adopt the recommendation of the superintendent that she has made tonight. So if that helps.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so we will be voting on accepting the recommendation of the superintendent.
Does anybody feel strongly that they'd like the resolution read publicly, or is the board okay with that not happening? I think it would just be a good discussion to see if anybody feels strongly.
I sort of feel like we don't need to do all the whereas clauses, but the resolution itself, I would feel more comfortable if we did read that in. I don't have my draft of it.
Can you read it?
Yeah.
Okay, so this will be the resolution part of the document.
Be it resolved by the Board of Education of Jefferson County School District R1 as follows. 1, that due to declining enrollment at Fitzmaurice, staff, students, and families at the school do not have access to the best elementary school experience that the district has to offer, and it is in their best interest to be served by another Jeffco school or in another position at the end of the 2021-2022 school year. And 2, that due to the unique circumstances at Fitzmaurice, it is in the best interest to suspend the operation of District Regulation FCB-R in connection with this decision and allow Fitzmaurice to close. 3, that the superintendent of schools or her designees are authorized and instructed to implement the steps in the recommendation to ensure that Fitzmaurice staff, students, and families are served at other schools or in other positions in accordance with district policies and negotiated agreements and with appropriate individualized support, to be adopted this 17th day of March 2022.
Okay, so the motion on the table has been moved and seconded to adopt the resolution regarding Fitzmaurice Elementary School as presented. Roll call, please, Ms. Neal.
Ms. Miller,
No.
Ms. Parker,
Yes.
Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Ms. Schooley,
Yes.
Dr. Barta.
Yes.
That resolution passes 4-1. And I think that concludes our business for tonight. And with that, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming.